This is the Chefpreneur podcast, where we inspire professional cooks to take on greater risk to build a personal chef business for themselves. Now, here's your host, Andres Hinojosa.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chefpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andres Hinojosa. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. We've been starting on the podcast a new segment where we've been taking some questions and some different topics that you guys want me to talk about and me sharing them on the podcast. And recently, I did do a kind of a live Q&A in one of the chefs groups on Facebook called the Chef Circle. Shout out to Chef Tim, who's the admin of that group. But I wanted to just, kind of reflect back on that. There were some questions that were asked in the comment section of that live Q&A video that was uploaded. And one of the questions that I got was from Tina, and she asked, what has been the most challenging part of starting your business? Now, it's a very simple question, but it's actually kind of made me think a little bit, right? Because there is a lot of challenging moving parts, especially to doing business. And one of the things I found was it was really challenging to get over that mental hump of knowing that I can actually do something like this. I think that a lot of us struggle with sometimes the mentality that we have is that we're not good enough, or we struggle finding basically that depth of courage to pursue what we really want for ourselves. And I think that was probably the most challenging part for me, because it not only relates to when you start it, but it's also sometimes where you're going to feel like you're going to give up sometimes throughout the course of the process. So sometimes you're on a very, you're on a high, and then sometimes you're on a very kind of ground level, bottom low. And, because there's some of that peaks and valleys, it can mess with your mind. It can really mess with the way you think, and you can feel like you get a little unwinded and a little wind is out of yourself. So I would say that was the most, I guess you'd say challenging part about starting my own business was, having the mental capacity to keep pursuing it and keep pushing through. And, I think some of us come to a point in our careers where we're so sick and tired of being taken advantage of, or feeling like we're just a lowly cook, that we're no one down at the bottom. And, it adds up. It starts to become overbearing, and we can't deal with that anymore. And so that's really what I use sometimes for my motivation, is what I looked at when I looked back in my career, and I saw that I just was very unhappy. And so I've talked about it before as well on a Facebook Live video I did in our private Chefpreneur movement group, where I was basically telling you guys that a lot of us are already struggling, and it's amazing how we struggle for something that's not really ours, something that's for someone else. And when it comes down to struggling for something that we're going to accomplish on our own, to be self-employed, we get a little scared, and we sometimes just give up really quickly. So I would say that was the most challenging part of starting my business. It was just having the mentality to keep going, keep having the courage to pursue, and keep pushing on. So I love that question. I'm going to answer one more from Josh as well on that same feed. It says, so I'm a lowly line, he put on here, so I'm a lowly line cook right now, but I'm trying to better my career. What's the best course of action to kick off my career? One of the things that I have learned in my career is that there's no position that you can't learn from. Even when you might be working in an establishment that you feel like doesn't have the best practices or standards, or you think that, you've kind of advanced beyond what they can give you, you can always learn how to not do something. I've always had that I guess you would say, that approach on things, because there has been a lot of chefs I worked for that honestly where I felt like were hacks. They didn't possess the level of qualities and the skills that I wanted to get from them and learn from them. And so there was things that I learned how to not do. I know that sounds it doesn't sound very good, but it's the truth, right? And you can kind of see what those repercussions are when you're in a place like those chefs are, where maybe they've even given up and they've never really they're never really taught you anything, but they have taught you how to not do something. The best course of action, I would say, Josh, would be first to just maybe start looking into this business. And again, we're going to be launching a program soon that's going to give you a step-by-step game plan, gameplay, the entire blueprint of how to start this. And that's for me, if you're talking about kicking off your career as a personal chef, that's definitely what I would do. I would start looking at what you're passionate on cooking, what your passions are, because that's what's going to drive the kind of business that you want to start. And also it's going to attract the clients that you want to attract. So you're going to have to start finding that stuff out little by little. If you feel like you're wanting more technical experience on cooking, I would say go find, a chef that you feel that could really take you under your wing, under his wing or his or her wing, and really implement, everything that they're teaching you and start to learn from them on the technical side. There's a lot of technically sound chefs that are amazing cooks, but they have no management. They have no management or leadership skills. It's actually really sad. And there's a lot of chefs that have amazing leadership and management skills that don't know how to cook that good, but they're able to run these massive organizations or these massive kitchens, and they're able to be very successful because they have that under their belt. So I don't know if you're looking, Josh, at maybe possibly asking me what it is to start off your career as a personal chef or just in general. So if you're looking for the technical side, definitely try to seek out a chef that's going to mentor you, give you those technical skills that you can learn from. If you're talking about kicking off your personal chef business, I think plugging in here to the Chefpreneur movement Facebook group, as well as, to this podcast, is going to continue to give you little tidbits and tricks and hopefully get you inspired to start taking that path and taking that first step out in faith. Because like I've said before, doesn't matter if you're a line cook and you've never been an official quote unquote chef with a title. When you start your own business and you become a personal chef, guess what? You are the chef of that company, right? So you've given yourself a promotion. So these are great questions, guys. Keep bringing those questions and giving me those topics that you want me to talk about on the podcast. I'd love to hear from you guys. So with that being said, it's going to kind of segue into that. Today's episode, I'm going to start talking about how to start your personal chef business part-time. Now, one of the biggest fears that we've talked about on this podcast that I've noticed from other surveys we've done have been that you guys have been scared, and a little bit, I guess you would say your biggest fear has been that you're not going to have enough money. Now, we've already countered that by saying that a personal chef business really only costs less than $500 to get started legally. That's about $299 for your liability insurance. And then, I'm kind of just giving you about another $200 as far as for your business license, as well as your DBA, known as your fictitious business name, right? So those are really the three components that you need to start off this business legally, which is very, very small. And then another part of that, not feeling like you guys had enough money to start, was the actual how do I sustain myself question, right? How do I bring in enough income to actually pay my bills, sustain myself, and live from month to month? Now, we've talked a little bit about money on the starting up cost before. I've talked about it in another episode of the podcast. So how much, the episode that's titled, How Much Is This Thing Going to Cost Me? And where we discuss the actual cost of starting this business as opposed to starting a food truck or a restaurant, which have huge costs associated to it, right? So those are insane amounts of money that you need to be able to start those businesses. Now, what I haven't talked about is some of the income that could be generated from being a personal chef. Now, again, anything I say on this podcast, I'm not trying to gloat. I'm not trying to have an ego and tell you guys that I'm better than other people. That's not what this podcast is about. I truly want to help you guys and get you guys to see the other side and grow and learn. So when I do use myself as an example, again, it's not to glorify myself. It's not to put myself on a pedestal. It's just that I'm trying to give you guys real numbers of what happens day to day in my business, right? That's what this is all about. So a lot of you guys are scared at that side of, am I going to make enough money to sustain my family, pay my bills, pay my rent, pay my gas, pay my car payment, all your bills that you need to get paid for. So what I want to try to challenge you guys to do is, I actually don't want anyone to put themselves in a predicament that is going to leave them in a worse place than they already are at. Okay, now we've talked about that there is going to be some sacrifice. There is going to be some struggle. We just posted a post out on Facebook earlier today. This podcast will be uploaded later on in the week, but we posted it where we were talking about the 3 steps of starting your business part-time. Is definitely one is mentality. We've kind of touched on that, right? Getting yourself psyched up enough to actually take take that initiative to create that. But what we want to try to do is we want to try to position you to not put yourself in a bad position. And one of those things is you got to budget your money, you got to be frugal, and that's kind of a segue, and that's another part that we can talk a whole hour about, right? But you got to, obviously not spend your money carelessly on other things. So if you needed $500 to get a business started, what do you spend $500 on that really you might not need? Is it Starbucks? Is it eating out? Is it, doing something, going to a concert? Now, I'm not saying that you want to withhold yourself from having fun, but it's all about how bad you want it, right? If you want to start a business, you're going to have to create, the amount of money you're going to need to start it. Even if it's low, you're still going to have to come up with that small amount of money, which is really easy to do, guys. I mean, honestly, there's probably many of you guys out there that can have a garage sale or sell something on Craigslist or on eBay or, on OfferUp or any of these, platforms that you could sell something on, and you could probably get enough money to get your liability insurance in no time, right? So that's one of those other things. And so the key to starting your business is to start it part-time. Now, this does several things for you. If you thought that you can't start this part-time, I understand and I get it, right? Because it does take time, it takes effort. And, let's face it, we're chefs and some of us have jobs that we work many hours, we work long hours, we get home late, or, if you're working during the day, you get home and you woke up so early that you're just exhausted, right? And you want to make sure you feel like you have time for yourself, your family, your friends, and your social life. And I get that part. But again, there's going to have to be some level of sacrifice as well, right? Now, here's the kicker. Starting this business part-time eliminates some of those fears of you not being able to pay your bills. And so imagine if you can actually keep your full-time job and where you're working to make sure you're covering it. Even if you're not satisfied where you are, you can actually get something part-time. Now, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that Uber drive, that Lyft drive, and although those things aren't the best paying jobs, they are part-time. And so more than ever nowadays, there's so many ways that you can supplement your income. So let's say you did get laid off for some reason, you were working somewhere in the kitchen and you got laid off, or you just up and quit, 6 months ago. You're going to have to find a way, either another job, or you're going to have to find a way to pay for your bills. So when starting your personal chef business, it might not be that you're starting it because you got laid off or because you don't have a job anymore. That could be one of the reasons, but I would say the smartest way to do it is to keep your day job and start this part-time. Now, coming up with the money to start it part-time is fairly easy. We just went over that, right? Because money is money, right? But a lot of you guys might be thinking, well, where do I find the time to start this business? It's going to take a whole nother level of work for me to start it. And I agree with you there. And you want to start taking just small incremental steps. Again, going back to those basics of getting your business license, right, in your city, which before you do that, you have to have a fictitious business name, because I know that your city or your city ordinance is going to ask you for that wherever you live in the United States or even somewhere else in the world. You're going to need your fictitious business name, right? Which is pretty fairly easy to get. Really, all you got to do is go down to a county clerk's office and, apply for it. Pay them the money, look up the name that you want to get, and then go ahead and purchase that. So now you have that piece of information. Then you could go over to get your business license if needed in your city that you live in. You'll have to maybe have a business license. Like I've said before, here in San Diego, they don't require one. They've done away with that sometime in the 90s. So I don't need technically a business license to be doing business in San Diego because I live in the city of San Diego. They do, however, have a business tax certificate I have to have. And long story short, it's just another way for them to get some money from me and be able to do business in the city of San Diego. So once you have those types of things, those two pieces of information, then I would say now you can go buy your liability insurance, which just protects you. Well, guess what, guys? You pretty much have a business. I mean, legally on paper, you have a business. So those would be the steps I would start to take part-time. Now, what that's going to do is obviously on your day off, you might have to request a day off if your day's off on the weekends, which is very unusual for this industry, right? For the culinary industry, it's very unusual for you to have the weekends off. But I would say that getting a day that you could just go spend to do all these things. And the liability insurance is done online, so that's going to take you 15 minutes. If even that, it's going to take you very little time. But realistically, the other two things, you just really need to take a day and go do these errands, right? It's just one day out of the month, out of the week, whatever. So pretty self-explanatory on that. The other side is building up your actual business, right? You might be thinking about logos. You might be thinking about building out your websites, what you're going to need for all those types of things, right? And that could be overwhelming to you guys. And you might be feeling like, man, part-time, how can I really get that done? Trust me, it's easier than you think. Like I said, we're putting together the Chefpreneur program. It's a membership. It's going to be a membership that you guys can join, and it's going to give you everything you need to start your business. We're talking about blueprints, templates, everything you need, how to talk to customers, everything that you can think of, right? Even guiding you on your logo, guiding you on your website, what to say on your website, how to price your services, how to charge people, what pieces of software to use to charge, to accept credit cards, the whole 9 yards, right? So we're going to be teaching all that in the membership. But at the start, you could really just start by starting with these 3 things that I just told you, right? Your DBA or your fictitious business name, your business license, and then your liability insurance. Now, one of the biggest things that I've seen that has influenced people is that once you have all that, a lot of chefs actually start their business without even having those 3 core principles. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. If you go out and just start taking money from someone, you're really not protecting yourself with the liability insurance, and you're not protecting yourself in the case of just your city and your county, using a name. And who knows, maybe the name that you're using is someone else's name. So again, you want to go through all the legal steps, in order to really start looking for a client. Now, after that, guys, the fastest, easiest way to do this is taking those first 3 steps that I just told you, and then going around and just simply creating a profile on like Yelp.com, on Thumbtack.com, and just start to get a feel for what's out there. Now, you're going to need to price your services. You're going to need to figure out what you want to do, and that's a little bit more in depth. If you guys haven't downloaded the Chefpreneur ebook, I highly recommend you to do so because it gives you a little bit of an overview of the steps from 1 to 10 on how to start your own business. And it's a great read. You can really honestly read it in like 30 minutes or less. It doesn't take very long to read. It's not a very lengthy ebook, but it's packed with some good information on giving you that kind of bird's eye overview of how to start your business. Now, think about this. You're going to continue to keep your job while you're doing this part-time. But once let's say you put your profile on Yelp, you get a phone call, right? And you design a menu for a client, you end up getting booked. Well, whatever date that they're wanting to book you, obviously you're probably going to have to request off or however you're going to make that happen, but you're going to finally have your first client. Once you get your first client, I'm telling you right now, you're going to have a lot of jitters. You might have some nervousness. You're not going to know what to do. Again, in the Chefpreneur program, we're going to give you all the steps on what to do on the cook day, before the cook day, how to approach the client's home, what to do when you're in the client's home. We're talking about checklist of things to check before you leave, sweeping up, making sure the dishwasher's started, cleaning down everything, wiping it down, making sure the ovens are off, the stoves are off. I mean, all your basic stuff, but we're going to give you checklists. We're going to give you tons of things, tons of resources that you guys, it's just amazing. We're going to give you basically a turnkey solution on having your business start. But when you're basically at your client's home and you get that first client locked down and you get them to pay you, you can make anywhere from $300, $400, $500 for that one event. Now, if you could sit here right now and tell me what can I do, to get something like $400 or $500 extra a month by doing one event. That's just one event, guys. So $500, if you made $500 off that one event, right? 5 times 12, that's $6,000 in a year extra that you're making, right? Extra income. Now, remember I told you that it was only $500 or less to start your business in the first place. So within one event, you've already recouped your investment. This business is a no-brainer at all. It's a no-brainer, right? Now, it does take the courage. It does take the motivation, and that's what I'm here for. That's what we're here for. We want to help motivate you, inspire you, educate you on what to do, right? But I really don't want to see you guys hurting. I really don't want to see you guys go, 100% out of the gate and just quit a job, go straight into this. Otherwise, you're going to end up like me, where it took me a good year and a half to bounce back and figure it out. And it was a very painful year and a half. It was very painful. Was it worth it? Absolutely, right? And that's the reason why I'm here today, is because I'm trying to give you guys a blueprint or a guideline on what to do and not make the same mistakes I did. Because I did it with a family of 5 at the time. I have a family of 6 now. So imagine, I did it with a family of 5 at the time. So I was forced to hustle. I was forced to find money. I love how Dave Ramsey says it, who, if anybody has never heard of Dave Ramsey, it's amazing. I love listening to his Entre Leadership podcast. That's a great podcast. But one of the things he always says is that we're entrepreneurs. We have to go out and hunt, kill something, drag it back to the cave to eat it, right? Every single day. That's what I have to do right now every single day. I have to go out, hunt and kill something and drag it back to the cave. Meaning when I get a phone call and I get an inquiry, I have to follow up with that inquiry. I have to follow up with that phone call. I have to make sure I get that sell. If I get that sell, it's golden. Actually, right before I recorded this podcast, I had 2 scheduled phone calls with clients today that were inquiring from my website, and both of them basically booked with me right there in 10 minutes, right? Because I know what to say. I know how to speak about my services. I know what I offer, and it's a constant thing for me now. So I know how to sell my services extremely well. And I've talked about that on another podcast as well, that I know how to sell extremely well my services, as will you, when I give you that blueprint on that sell sheet on how to sell your services. And trust me, it really works. So we had just had a lady call us that wanted to do 10 people this month on October 26th. And she wants a plated meal for 10 people. So we're doing a 4-course plated dinner for her husband's birthday dinner. And I charged $90 per person plus the cost of groceries. Now the groceries are 100% passed on to her. So guess what? 90 times 10, $900. So in that one night, I'm going to make $900. Now, a lot of you, again, I'm not saying it to brag, but a lot of you out there are not even as line cooks making $900 every 2 weeks, right? That's actually the reality of it, right? Now, all I'm saying, the reason why I'm saying that is because think about that. You could start this business part-time, right? So step 1, you're starting this part-time, you're getting your feet a little wet, you've already invested $500 into doing some of the legal work, right? On the front end, right? And then you're going to position yourself maybe on Yelp. You could post some ads on Craigslist. You can get yourself on thumbtack.com. You guys can check that website out, and you could put all these profiles for free. Right? And then Yelp is obviously 100% for free, where people can find you. You could put some food pictures. You could describe, what you're all about. And I get more into detail on that in the program on how to really word what describe in words what you do best so that people want to hire you. But at the same time, when you have all these profiles out there, you're bound to probably get a fish or two, right? And again, you're not going 100% because you're doing it part-time, right? You're not calling and cold calling different people. I talk about strategic partnership as well in the program. I've talked about it here on the podcast as well, which is pairing up with people that could refer you as well, which I believe is actually the fastest way to do it, is to go with a strategic partnership, right? But you can start to find people that can refer you business, right? And the thing is once you get that one event under your belt, that first event, you're going to feel really, really good. You're going to feel a little bit relieved because you're going to say, wow, okay, I was nervous, I was anxious. Maybe you were feeling a little bit, not scared, but just kind of just nervous, right? It's normal to be nervous when you're doing something that you're not used to. But I'm telling you what, after that first event that you do, after that first cook date for your client that you do, it's amazing. It's going to be amazing from there on out, right? And the thing is that with just one event, you're probably going to pay back your initial investment. Now, as it starts to grow, you need to figure out if you start to see that you have maybe a couple inquiries coming in consistently, or now you're getting 2 events booked a month. Now you're going to see, okay, now something's working. I'm finding my groove. Now, how do I make this happen 3 or 4 times a month? And think about that. Now, I just had this lady, these 2 people just called me today, or I called them because they scheduled a phone call with me. And the first client was for 6 people for this month as well. And basically, it was for her mom's birthday. And that's 6 people. Again, $90 times 6, $540. And realistically, she told me that she got a referral from someone. Honestly, I've never even heard of the lady that referred her. So it might have been a lady that was dining at one of the events that I was at. But, regardless, I got a referral. She put an inquiry on my website. Boom, she's booking with me. Then here, a couple hours later, I get, I call another lady for the 10 people for this month as well. And that's $900. So in just those two calls, you have to look at it that I just made $900 plus the $540, $1,440, right, in two phone calls. Right now, I'm going to have to also go cook for them on those days, right? But still, I just did $1,400 for sure. It's in the bag for sure. They're booking with me. We're working on the menus and we're already starting the process, right? That's not including tip, which with all due respect, I'll probably get tipped at least $200, $300, $400 from those two events combined. So all in all, I'll probably bring in $1,800, probably a minimum of $1,800 for just two events. So you might be thinking, wow, how does he charge that much money? Well, I can teach you how you can charge that much money because you're giving them a level of an experience and a service, right? And the thing is that the second lady who I talked to, the one that were doing the 10, she said, I reached out to 3 other chefs and they haven't returned my call. They haven't got back to me. They haven't replied back to my email. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's really sad, but it's my gain from their loss. Right. And that's the thing, guys, is that I want to teach you guys as well. I'm not going to get into today's podcast, but I want to teach you guys the nitty gritty of actually how to do a follow-up. You need to really contact these clients as fast as possible. The faster you can contact them back when they contact you, the more of a chance that you have of actually closing the sale and doing the event. Right. And so I feel like a lot of personal chefs out there don't even focus on the sales part of it, right? They're always worried about bringing in the inquiries. I've talked about it on other podcast episodes. They're always worried about, well, how many inquiries can I get a day? Can I get 10 inquiries? Can I get 5 inquiries? Can I get 6 inquiries? How do I get 20 inquiries a month? It really doesn't matter how many inquiries you get if you can't close the deal. I could get 1 inquiry, close the deal, and get myself $900 worth of bookings in just 1 phone call like I did today. Right? So it's 1 inquiry I got that translates into $900. That's a big deal. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? I'm trying to get your mental aspect there. That's why starting this part-time is such a beautiful thing, right? Because you can get 1 event booked, and all of a sudden you can bring maybe $500 or $600 or $900 in 1 event, right? Which is a lot of money. That's a lot of extra money in a month, and you're doing it part-time. Right? But that's what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about today is I don't want you to be, the more stressed you are in a stressful position, obviously you're going to have enough probably nervousness at first, maybe going to the client's home. Maybe you won't. Maybe you're really comfortable around people. You're really social and you're going to feel, you feel right at home in front of people and you're not shy. You're not bashful. You're not nervous in that sense. So, hey, it's going to be easy for you. There might be people that are going to be really nervous when they go to the client's house for the first time. And I don't blame you because it happens to everyone. But after your second or third time, really some of the jitters start to just wear off and you get more and more comfortable. You get more and more in your game. You start to refine it more and more and it becomes second nature to you after a while. For me right now, I'm not trying to brag, but I could go to a client's house pretty much dead tired, after, sometimes I'm booked 4, 5, 6 days straight. And it takes a lot of effort because I'm doing, the Chefpreneur part as well, which is basically I'm building this second other movement that I'm doing, the Chefpreneur movement. And I'm managing dinner with a chef as well at the same time and being a father and a husband of, my wife and a father of 4. So there's a lot to juggle there, right? And I could sometimes show up to a client's. I'm not sleeping right when I show up, but I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And I could still do an amazing job and give them an amazing experience because it's second nature to me. It's like putting on a glove. It just fits and it's easy for me now, right? But with you guys, it might not be that way, obviously, at first. You're going to have to get out the jitters. But what I'm trying to say, guys, is that once you get that first event, which you can get part-time with not, you're going to have to put some effort into it, but you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to get your first client. There's a lot of people out there and they want your services. And once you get that first one under your belt, you're going to feel, man, that felt great. And I made good money. That was amazing. And you're going to want to put 110%, of course, into any client, that you serve. You're going to put 110%, just like I do. Even when I'm dead tired, I'm putting 110% every single time. And that's why they feel that. That's why they love the experience. And you could do this part-time, but I don't want you guys to have to worry about how you're going to pay the bills. Because if you do that, you can't give your clients the best service possible. You can't give them the best experience because you're so worried about being broke, about putting gas in your car, about, driving, wherever you're going to drive to your client's home and not even knowing if you're going to have enough money to get there or not. It's a scary situation. And you don't want to put yourself in that position, right? And if you feel like you're already in a horrible financial position and you have a full-time job, then maybe you need to analyze your budget and look at what you're spending money on. You might need to break it down. And I'm not trying to, come off as like some financial guru to you because I'm not. But, it's just basic common sense is like, hey, am I spending money on things that I shouldn't be spending money on? And how do I dial those things back so I can start to feel like I'm not so stressed out about money and I'm able to start this business that's really going to start giving me some finances coming in, right? So you're taking that initial step to have a big step and a leap forward in your career. So anyway, I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about it. Starting your personal chef business part-time, number one, make sure that your mentality is right. You're going to have to get up enough courage to really start this thing. It doesn't take a lot. Step two, you're going to have to get some of those legal things down, right? Your DBA, your fictitious business name, your business license, your liability insurance, right? Which should all cost you under $500. And then three, trying to find that first client, making sure that you're actively putting yourself out there, putting a profile on Yelp, putting a small ad on Craigslist, making sure that you're signing up for thumbtack.com and you're putting yourself out there so people can find you, right? And then of course, responding back to those clients to nail your first client and get yourself booked, right? So that's what it is. If you could do all that with part-time with having a full-time job, no problem. I truly believe that because I see a lot of people do it. And now, especially with Ubers and Lyfts, let's say you weren't even in a job or you already had a part-time job in the kitchen and you still want to start this business. Hey, you can supplement with being an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, whatever you need to do to pay the bills and get the job done. So I hope I encourage you guys today. Remember, this is the Chefpreneur podcast. We're here to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to take a leap of faith, start your own business, and create experiences that you want to create in your life without anybody holding you back. So the future is yours. Put it in your own hands. Hey, if you haven't downloaded the free ebook, the Chefpreneur ebook, you can download that ebook at ebook.chefpreneurprogram.com. That's ebook.chefpreneurprogram.com. Also find us on Facebook. Our Facebook group is called the Chefpreneur Movement. You can join that group. If you're a chef and you want to be around another community of everybody who's wanting to start a personal chef business and want to be self-employed and want to be their own boss, go ahead and ask to join our group, the Chefpreneur Movement group. So you could just search that on the Facebook. And then you can also read our blog, which is at chefpreneurprogram.com/blog. That's chef, PRENEUR program.com/blog. Hey, it was always a pleasure to be with you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we can't wait to see you guys again next week. So stay tuned. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Chefpreneur podcast, where we want to educate, motivate, and inspire as many chefs to become their own boss. Please subscribe to the podcast and join us every week to be part of the movement. To sign up for our free online training, visit becomeachefpreneur.com.